What is up, everybody? Liam Murphy back with another stream. Let me just tweet this out. Going live. Dwayne is on his way. He'll be here in a couple moments, but I thought I'd go live, chat with you guys. We can look at, I think what we'll do while we wait for Dwayne is let's look at some of my my early completed teams on Underdog and compare those to the market you have today. I think there's some big hits in my portfolio from earlier, and I think there's some misses. So if you guys are there in the chat, please let me know that you can hear me and everything. I think I got everything up ready, and Dwayne should be joining in less than 5 minutes if I had to guess. So let's just take a look at thank you, brother. Starkindler. When I first noticed Starkindler's name is, I believe, in the Underdog finals last year. I think Star, if you're in the chat, you can help remind me. But I believe you had 3 teams in the Best Ball Mania 2 final. Is that correct? And you were not the only one. I don't know about that, D-Wise. So let's look at some of these early teams, man. I've not named them all. I almost named no in real time. By the way, this is easier on the phone to look at your old teams than desktop. But actually, looks like Dwayne is here. So that did not. We're not looking at those. We're gonna introduce Dwayne. Dwayne, how you doing today, man?
What's up, man? I'm doing good, Liam. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for joining me today for a stream on Underdog. We're going to be ripping a Best Ball Mania 3. Dwayne, let's first talk about what is your background with Best Ball and where are you at in the process? What's your plan as far as drafts you're doing and whatnot?
Yeah, so honestly, I've always been more of a redraft, league player, like a lot of people, right? Until, we get all the Best Ball Mania craze going on over the last, couple of years. It's it's amazing, like how much Best Ball's growing, and I love it. So, as far as where I'm at in my process, well, I'm about 80 drafts in. So across, that's probably nothing compared to, a lot of you guys. But
well, let me ask you, how long have you been doing fantasy analysis? Because I want to ask you about if you're noticing any change this year with just the popularity of Best Ball, like how early in the process people are starting to draft, and how that may be impacting from years past. Like years past, I think most people are probably tuning in around now. They don't have 500 drafts under their belt. They're not, they're not doing mock drafts maybe as much anymore. They're doing best balls. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, I've been playing fantasy football for a long time. Been really, putting out content for the last 3 years. Been with PFF, for the last 2. Well, I guess for the last 4 years, I've been putting out, content. But I was always just really more of a, mid to high stakes player. Did all my own research, and I would really just use it for me. But I always had a passion around it. My previous job, I worked in data and analytics. So
what type of job was that?
I was a VP over our product team for a large healthcare organization. We collect data from hospitals, really trying to help the supply chain.
Cool.
Figuring out, are they spending too much on different widgets? Or they, utilization? Yeah, people are probably really surprised. Like utilization report. Yeah, that started before even football. Like looking at that kind of stuff on medical supplies and stuff like that. So
where you doing do you have a background in regression analysis?
Nope.
and analysis like that? Or
no, it's funny. It's honestly the way it all worked out. I had always had an interest in that stuff. And data and statistics. I took all that stuff in college, but it wasn't my major, or anything. I had honestly been in sales my whole career. So I'd worked for Merck Pharmaceuticals, then I'd worked over in the medical device industry. And I had been negotiating with this company because they represent about 55% of the hospitals in the United States to get on their national contract, our products. And I just, got to know a lot of people there. And then they were standing up this new, area of their company. And they came to me and I was like, well, it's just what you said. Like, I don't know all this math stuff. I'm not a programmer. I'm not any of those things. And they were like, well, actually, we're looking for somebody that actually just knows, like, typically, how the suppliers and how the manufacturers, what are all the triggers, the different things you guys do to keep pricing up, to keep your pricing, from getting exposed, basically all the different things that we would use when we were negotiating, with the hospitals. And they're like, if we understand those things, then you can work with our team, then maybe we can start to, put together some really good information that could be helpful, like to the supply chain leaders of hospitals. So that's how it all started. So I started off as a product manager, and then I just slowly learned more and more, honestly, about everything else, like through, my career. And I say career, I did that like, I don't know, 6 years, so I started off as a product
New
manager, and this
career.
kind of
You're in a
my,
new career now.
yeah, new career now. So,
And if you're a young viewer, because I look at my channel analytics, right? Like a big group of my viewers are 25 to 34. If you're young, like I think back in the day, people were like, oh, it kind of looks bad to jump jobs. Jump jobs, man. I was a teacher. I'm really happy I was a teacher for 3 years of my life. Like, feel like that sets you up to be a good father in the future. You learn a lot doing that. I worked
my degree
for.
my degree is in education. Then I
There
went
you
into
go.
sales. Then I ended up in analytics, and now I write for PFF. So yeah, a lot can
Yeah.
happen.
And I mean, I worked for an economics firm. I worked for a tech startup. And I mean, especially if you're trying to like make more money, the truth is that like companies usually they're going to give you like 2%, 3% a year. But if you jump jobs to either the same field or something else, they're going to give you, that's when you can get these like huge raises, which can really just like change your income bracket for a long time. So if you're young, I would look
Or
into.
you can take a pay cut like me just to do what you love.
Yeah, well, that is an option too, and, like, there's like, I love teaching. I was confident I was not gonna do it my whole life, though, just because, man, we gotta pay our teachers more. It's
I
brutal out
agree. I
there in
agree.
the education field, but very rewarding. There wasn't a single day in my life where I was like, "Ugh, I have to go teach kids chess." Like, there was bureaucracy I didn't like, but when, like, 40 kindergartners, like, all come in and give you a hug and they're like, "Yes, chess," like that's fun, man. And like I worked like jobs before where like, look, Nancy, I don't like we're riding up in the elevator. I do not want to hear about the Netflix show you watched this weekend. Like I'm sorry, I just don't care. I don't want to hear about you complain about anything. Kids don't complain, so teaching I think is a good thing for young people to experiment with if they're searching for direction. Before we jump into the draft, though, have you noticed any like obviously the hardos doing best ball does not capture a huge percentage of the market, but it's becoming more and more mainstream. Is it changing anything on your end as far as process? Are you noticing anything, or is it just kind of like another year?
Here, so I'll go like a level above that, right? Zoom out one level above that and just look at fantasy as an industry. And I think, we saw
Getting
this
big.
several years ago with DFS, right? With DFS, we learned certain things. We opened the box on new strategies. We were willing to test new things. And honestly, a lot of people that came into that didn't come in with any assumptions and had different ideas than people that played year-long type fantasy football. Like, it just opened this whole new arena of even thinking about how you set your lineups and your season long stuff. There's so many things we learned from DFS, and then you started applying them to
Yeah.
redraft. And then there were certain things that you could use from redraft, right? That you might be applying, towards DFS. Now we got this whole new craze going on with best ball. And what I love the most about it is just how it gets everybody thinking 4, 5, 6, 7 steps ahead. Like, because we can all talk about players, all day long, and we all love players, like we love football. But at the end of the day, like, the layers of strategy folded like on top of that and around that is like what is so intriguing to me about the game. And so what I love with best ball is just, all of the new thought processes, all the different people approaching things from different ways. And not that every one of them are, not that all of them are right, but I just thought it's invigorating for the industry, right? To
I
get these new
really
thought
I really
processes.
agree
I
with
think
you.
it helps redraft. I think it
Like
helps redrafters a ton.
I love the side of the strategy. I will say, like, I do feel some, like, I feel like I've sensed some worry from some of the bigger fantasy analysts out there that like, look, they just want to talk about players, like they don't want to. Not everyone wants to dive into the nitty gritty of strategy, nor is it what they're necessarily like strong in. And like, look, I'm big on player takes and I'm big on strategy, so like that's why I think I'm good at best ball, and both are fun, but it's good to hear that you're embracing the strategy here. Hey, Russell, man, we appreciate our quote unquote boomers. Hoping that you can continue to smoke us in these contests, man.
And since 1993, I've been getting owned a long time then.
Yeah, I was born in 92. All right, well, let's jump into BBM 3 here.
Well, I graduated in 95, so I'm boomer too.
We're definitely going to get some player takes. We're going to get some strategy. Yeah, like it's funny with like best ball, 95% of content, I would say, about like, let's just take the first 2 rounds. Like, if you are making content correctly for best ball, here's what I think it would be for the first 2 rounds. How high is a player's ceiling? How often do they hit it? How good is their game week 17? That's probably the most actionable thing to make money, right? Like, how high is their ceiling? How often do they hit? Like, it's not what are they going to score over the course of a season, but almost all analysis is like, and it kind of ties in together. Like, if you're going to score a lot of points over the course of the season, of course you have a high ceiling. So like, and I say
But
that,
no,
but
I love that because I think the danger, and like I'm a huge projections guy, like I do projections, but I don't tie the way I draft to projections. And honestly, that's been an evolution over time. Really what we're trying to do is create range of outcomes, right? And that's what we're looking at. And the problem with projections is people get so narrow-sighted on here's exactly what happened last year, and that's going to be the thing that's going to happen this year. And like in reality, like we're really taking a really freaking small sample that had all sorts of variables going on, and then we're trying to paint that into a box that makes sense to us that says here's what's going to happen this year. And guess what? It just doesn't always work that way. So I actually revamped, like I've been doing this, but I revamped the way that I work my process to share it with people on PFF this year, and the way that I set my tiers up. And it was all around
real quick. This is great.
that.
Let's pause you though.
Yeah. Go.
Who do you want to go here?
I'm good with Cup, Chase. I'm good with either one of those. You do your exposure thing.
You choose the wide receiver of these 2.
Well, then take Cooper Kupp.
All right, easy. All right, keep on going, because that's I want to continue talking about that, and I liked what you're saying.
So the way I try to think about it, and again, I still do the projections, and a lot of things I'm about to talk about, like they tie into the projections, like they're going to come out like as part of it. But we want to make sure that we're being open to the range of outcomes. So I really like these scenario-based type projections. So for example, everybody just assumes that the Eagles are going to run the ball. Not everybody, but a lot of people. Oh, they're just going to run the ball because they did with Jalen Hurts. That's one potential outcome. But they did add A.J. Brown. They drafted Devonta Smith in the first round the year before. They've got a really good tight end in Dallas Goedert. A lot depends on Jalen Hurts. But look, you're a Bills fan. Like, remember when the Bills were run heavy until all of a sudden they weren't with Josh Allen?
I wanted you to give an example about that myself, because I don't actually sit down and do projections or anything like that. Nor do I even really sit down and rank the players at any point in the season. Like I know who I like, and it's kind of holistic, but
if you pick one thing and you're on Underdog, like it's better, honestly, just to know the ADP.
I think uploading ranks is a big mistake. I think having ranks next to you is fine if you and know your own football knowledge, right? Like if you're someone doing a couple, you're not in the, sure, lean on someone's rankings and use some strategy elements. But I don't do projections, but I'm like I know the players who I'm confident I can like guesstimate.
I don't think you have to do them to be good. I do them because I like it.
What I wanted to say is, let's take the Bills. 2 years ago, the Bills ran 4 wide receiver sets at a really high clip, right? And this is a part of analysis I don't really hear too much from anyone. Is so because they did that, I was like, oh, like why would they change? We were good we were good the COVID year. We ran 4 wide receivers. Great. Let's keep doing it. It came at the expense of Dawson Knox. And then last year, the Bills did not run 4 wide receivers anymore, pretty much. They did 1 tight end and 3 wide receivers. And that's why we saw that really big year from Knox. And I was kicking myself for being lighter on Knox when I had a ton the year before, because I was like, oh, the Bills just don't want to do that. But the truth is, they changed, like any smart offensive coach, they changed what they wanted to do. I'm cool with Mark Andrews. Do you want to go?
I don't want Evans. I I'm out on Evans in the second.
All right, let's
at
grab
this
elite
point.
tight end then, and then we'll see who makes it back to us. There's plenty of players in this range I like too.
But yeah, so what? Yeah, to your point, like the coaches change, like and the personnel changes, but we can see even bigger swings than that, right? I mean, like thinking how run heavy the Bills were
Yeah,
with Josh Allen 3 years ago, and then 2 years ago, all of a sudden it was a pass heavy team. And really, the writing had already kind of been on the wall. We weren't accepting it, right? They had added Cole Beasley, the year
Diggs.
before, and yeah, they traded for Stephon Diggs the next year. So I mean,
Yeah, like
and
Josh Allen's
these
first year, his wide receivers were like Kelvin Benjamin, who Josh Allen asked Kelvin Benjamin, "Hey, do you want to like run some routes for me before the game?" And Kelvin Benjamin told him no. And then his other wide receivers are like Zay
well, okay.
Jones, Charles Clay was in the mix, like Rupert Foster, whoever. It was like a really down bad group. And then they got John Brown and Cole Beasley. I was like, whoa, like these guys are actually NFL players. And then they got Steph Diggs, and I loaded up that year because I was like, we're gonna be way better. Like, and I said Josh Allen's either gonna be Patrick Mahomes level or he's gonna fizzle. And that year in best ball, I can speak to it. Like he would go after Matt Ryan, and it was like we're in a new age of fantasy.
Yeah. And I think the key, like when we're looking at these things, like I know we got a draft here, so
I'm cool with Fournette.
I've been buying the Fournette discount when he slips around the turn, which he has been for the last week or so basically since the new puppy open. I know this one's a best ball mania, but yeah. So like when I'm looking at these guys, like what matters to me more, right? First is the talent profile, and the talent profile. There's certain metrics that I want to use to look at that. That always matters the most. Then the next thing that and it's different a little bit for each position. So for example,
and I
talent matters more for receivers than running backs.
Yes. And that's also why I'm comfortable having higher, fading more guys at wide receiver and having a really high exposure to some wide receivers because I'm more confident they're good at the game. Whereas running back is a usage type thing. And tight end is super high variance too. So like I want the elite guys, but then I'll also have a bunch of random late guys because ultimately what makes you money is what tight end falls into the end zone week 17, which is not something you can like. It was not all that predictive of a thing, right? Like Noah Fant with Drew Lock won me $1 million against the Chargers week 17.
Right.
So that's a game theory thing that like, oh, okay. So tight end. So last year, like, how did I change my strategy a little bit? Is I was doing a lot of 2 tight end just with the 18 rounds, and this year I'm working in more 3 tight end on underdog sometimes, just wanting the extra shot on goal at a really high variance, really high leverage position for ownership reasons.
Are you working in 3 even if you get, one of the top 5 guys?
If I get Kittle, like Kittle's a guy I more work in 3 with just because he is a really high spike week guy and a really low floor guy, right? So, and I will do it occasionally.
But if you get like a Waller or a Kittle, you may not. You're more likely just to go with 2.
It
not
depends
Kittle,
when I get my second tight end. Like if my second tight end is in like the Knox, Goddard, Hockenson range,
yeah.
I'm stopping at 2. But if it goes like, and with Travis Kelce, I'll push it. Like Travis Kelce is a guy who, if he's good this year again, he's giving you 15 to like 20 every week, right? So he's a guy I will push too. But I don't know. I think the tight end position is fascinating. I'd like to hear that you are trying to improve. Like I relate to trying to improve your process. I think 2 years ago when I played best ball, I was bad at best ball. Like it was new to me. Like the game, I was just like, okay, great. I was drafting like I was in my home league, and I advanced a lot of teams. People were just bad, but people are getting much better at best ball, and it's interesting where the fantasy community will go over time, like with these big contests.
That's Sam. Look, we got Sam right in front of us.
Oh, yeah, I wanted Marquise Brown there. Who
emailed you on. Dude, I'm liking Judy at this point. With Tim Patrick gone, it's going to open up. The big concern with Judy was when they go 12 personnel, which they will, that's going to be a multiple offense. Like it's going to knock him off the field because Tim Patrick's going to be out there. Well, now Judy's going to most likely be out there in 2 wide receiver sets. So I love locking it in with Wilson. Plus, like if you look at the AFC West, it's crazy, man. 56% of the games projected for 50 points or more right now over on Superbook belong in the AFC and NFC West because they play each other this year. So you get like natural macro correlation like across any if you and you're going to have several of those players from those teams. It's hard to avoid them. There's a lot of good players on those teams, but I love the idea of getting him with Wilson when he's going to be on the field all the time.
Yeah, Judy wasn't a guy I was too into before because I think Tim Patrick was
I was
ball.
I was underweight on him, but I'm
But now I agree with you. Like, I want to be buying all the Broncos post Patrick injury. Just in general too. Like, I want to be buying on certain situations that people don't want to click the button because they don't want to choose, right? Like, they want to be confident they're making the right choice. They don't want to say, "Oh, I'll make 5 teams and just kind of cover try to cover it." How about here?
Kittle. Well, we've got Andrews, so no,
I'm cool with double tight end and being done.
We can double it, but I mean, show me our roster again real quick. Sorry. We got 2 receivers over there. Yeah.
2 wideouts for
I also love Amon-Ra. But if you've got plenty and you don't want to reach for him, I'm good.
I love Amon-Ra. He won me $1 million last year.
Well, let's take Amon-Ra because I love.
We're gonna do Kittle. We're gonna do Kittle.
We're gonna do Kittle instead. Fine.
Because I don't know, like.
No, it's fine. I mean, I think fine. I mean, you're getting Kittle a little bit past ADP there, so I mean, and it is an interesting.
We should be getting Kittle in the 5th. Like the Waller Kittle ADPs,
they're off.
They're wrong, and
I wrote a strategy piece, more geared to it's honestly you can gear it towards any of these things, but like I talked about this year, like the Kittle and Waller thing is crazy, and then sometimes Pitts falls too, and so like if any of those
how
are
big
past
a gap
ADP,
do you got
I'm typically scooping
between them. Pitts, Kittle, and
I have them all. I have Pitts, Kittle, and Waller all in the same tier.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I view it too, and that and I want to be getting more Pitts. Like last year, I had a ton of Pitts, and it came out, but it comes at the expense of these guys who could be the Cooper Kupps this year. Is why I'm not getting as much Pitts yet. I'm going to get more. I just smoothed out my exposures with some high stakes shit if I feel like I'm.
My other problem is I'm just not a fan of Schultz at ADP. I'm not a fan of Hawkinson at ADP.
I don't like Hawkinson.
Yeah, I think Schultz is overpriced though. That's the challenge, right? You got to take him in round 6 when you could be taking an elite dual threat quarterback. That's much more likely, to crush your league for you. And so it's an opportunity cost thing. The other aspect of it, I would just rather give me Dallas Goedert, because even if things go wrong, he's a better player. If things go right, he's going to kick Schultz like up and down the field. Like Dallas Goedert.
I'm a big Dawson Knox guy.
I know you are. I'm lower on
people are polarized on that.
So again, well, here's the deal. I like Knox, and he's my tight end 10 because he plays for the Bills. His underlying data point suggests like he does not demand targets in the same way that the elite guys do. Now, he is good after the catch. He can work the seam. There's some things he can do that are really nice, and I always caveat it with he's still young. But at this point,
how much 2 tight end sets did you project for the Bills this year? Because they've run like 0 in the past, and I think that's going to be a thing.
Well, I think they absolutely will. When adding OJ Howard and then just looking at what happened, they don't know for sure what's going to happen with their wide receiver 2 or wide receiver. Well, they're going to they'll have Gabriel Davis outside at wide receiver 2, but like it's Isaiah McKenzie's currently winning the race. You add Crowder, but you've got Shakir. Like it just really depends. Like with those 3 guys. Like if you only like one of them, well, that means you're going to have to use more 2 tight end, which the 2 tight end thing doesn't really affect Knox that much. How it does help him is if you've got less receivers on the field, typically the tight ends can get more targets. It's just harder to get your yards per route run and those things up when you're dealing with 3 wide sets all the time.
I think the 2 tight end, what I've been saying, because I've been hip to this for a while. And I think if you think of a quarterback that's best designed to take advantage of 2 tight end, Josh Allen comes top of mind, where he can be the power back. You have James Cook out there that you flex into the slot late in the play if you wish. And then it just ups the target share of Knox, Davis, and Diggs just because it takes a slot off the field. So you have the option where James Cook is a slot. All the 3 top guys get more targets. And it really just bumps down. It's why I was not in on Crowder, but I wasn't on McKenzie.
Personally, I'm going Lance with this pick, but it's your team.
Let's do it, man. No, it's our team. You got 50% equity in this.
You got the.
I got a lot of.
You got control of the mouse over there. So.
I got a lot of Lance. The only thing is like, we have to think about our whole portfolio. Like I have tons of Lance. Like he's one of my highest owned quarterbacks.
You were getting him a lot cheaper early too.
8th, 9th, and after a couple of these wide receivers, like it's a bit of a tier break for me pretty soon here. But ultimately, having Trey Lance and I don't something I
Yeah,
say
the
a
thing
lot
that
is
makes it a little tougher here is we have 2 tight ends, right? That's what makes the Lance pick a little tougher. If
yeah,
you just
but I
had
mean,
one and one of the others have been a receiver, I think it does make it, easier
yeah, it's
because of the wide receiver tier
the
break
two
you're
tight
talking
end
about.
is just it's so easy to make the finals if it's the piece that is needed, right? Like you can really separate in those playoff rounds from your group mates.
Yeah, because there just
It
won't be many that have the build.
yeah. Um, I like Kirk a lot. I would
Yeah, I'm
do
good with
Russell
Kirk. I do not
too.
like Alan Lazard. If you know anything about me, you already know this.
I would do Ayuk. I would do Ayuk, Kirk, or Wilson. Who do you want
I
in that?
would I would do Kirk. I mean, I'm not huge on the double stack with Lance. I'm fine with it. But I feel like there's a lot of ways for him to Lance is one of those guys, honestly, there's just so many ways for him to smash his outcomes, like, and it doesn't have to involve, 2 guys.
Yeah.
Hurts is similar. Hurts Lamar Jackson, obviously
And in
similar as well.
general, a double stack for an individual week is not as high a ceiling as a single stack, but it can be a way to score a lot of points in the regular season and or advance in the playoffs, a lower owned player. But Kirk, I think makes a lot of sense for our team where we just kind of like want that. Like why I've been loading up on Kirk is he is the wide receiver one in Jacksonville, and Hunter Renfro is probably like the pass catcher three. So like I like Renfro. I think he's going to have a red zone role, but like there's a discrepancy where you're like he's like one of the cheapest wide unquestionable wide receiver ones in the draft landscape. And
Yeah,
he's
and
good at
Kirk's
football.
profile, like it's okay. Like so he definitely checks some the things I look out for breakouts on wide receiver. He checks a few of them. Like my guess is it's like
Highest paid in the NFL.
yeah, I could care less about that.
No, no.
But it does matter because it means you're on the field, right? When you get paid, you're typically on the field. That's the thing that getting paid gets you, right? Is out there running routes. So then if you can just be good, but that hasn't been the challenge for Kirk. He was in a little bit of a crowded offense. Struggles a little bit when he has to play outside. So I've been really tracking and excited, like when I hear they're moving him all over the field and they're going to get him inside. Because I was worried. I was like, man, are they going to force him outside? Not that he can't do it, and there's things you can do with a player outside. Not all things are equal. If you treat him like a Z, you move him around, you put him in motion, all that kind of stuff. A lot of those guys that are normally slot receivers can still work. But with Kirk, he does have the big playability for sure. And so we just need to step forward with Lawrence. I don't think he'll ever be a 25% target share guy, but honestly, if you're 22, 23%, but you're popping some big plays, it's okay. Like, especially where you're getting Christian Kirk in drafts.
Yeah, and I don't know, like the NFL we've seen is just a copycat league a little bit. So are people going to try to? Oh,
No,
well,
it's
let's make our
not just a
picks real
little
quick.
bit; it's a
I
lot.
like Sky Moore.
I
I
love Sky
like.
Moore, and I'm not huge on CEH,
I
but
know
I got a
I'm
lot
not
of
huge there
exposure.
either, but I would listen if
I
you
like
were.
Edmonds
I like Evans too. All right,
more
let's
than
do
I.
Sky. Let's do
Yeah,
Sky, and
I
we'll
think we need the
figure out
receiver
running back.
first. Yep.
I like
No,
running
man,
back.
Sky Moore, I love. People like bang on him because they're like, oh, small school. But he's my
How did
favorite
your
chip.
projection sort out with the Kansas City guys?
So again, I do ranges and I also use ADP as a component of the way I work it, but he's my favorite chip to put down on the Kansas City offense. So, I mean, Juju, it's fine, but his ADP is a lot higher, right? He's round 6. He has been a good player before, but his underlying talent profile has been declining. You could argue it is due to injury. That's the one caveat with Juju. He's played hurt really for the last several
Yeah,
years.
I'm in on
But
Juju too this year. Like, and
but
I'm
I'd rather have Sky in round 8 or 9 than Juju in round 5 or 6. That's
agreed,
where
but
I'm at.
like I don't want to fade a guy who could become the wide receiver one and can't like just in case it is
No, you're gonna have
Juju.
you need exposure, but I'm
Yeah.
some people flock to Juju. I'm probably even to market on Juju.
Um, this is a round I want to get a running back unless you want to go Stafford. So who
I
do
love
you want?
James Cook.
All right, easy click, easy click.
Yeah, dude, James Cook is such an easy click, man. And this is another one. This is an example, right? People
He
get
can get
so
there in a
hung
lot
up
of
on
ways.
people get so hung up on James Cook. And what's the number one thing? Well, man, Josh Allen's a rushing quarterback. Rushing quarterbacks don't throw to running backs. Here's my question: how often do high-end rushing quarterbacks really play with running backs that can truly be down the field targets, like a Kamara, like a CMC, like an Austin Eckler? Because guess what? When you can do those things And guess what? We've already seen it. Cam Newton didn't throw to running backs until he threw to who? He got CMC. Everything changed because what happens when a play caller can use you that way, you're now much more often the first or second read. If you're just the dude out in the flat, if you're Zach Moss and Josh Allen looks over there and he sees you and he's gone through 3 reads, Josh Allen's just taking off, like, because he can do more than Zach Moss. But if you're James Cook, right, and you're getting to break down linebackers, safeties, I'm super excited about James Cook this year. And there's
I think
a lot of ways he can get there.
When I think about the Bills offense, James Cook makes the Bills offense a terror compared to Singletary.
Yes.
Like, Singletary's good at football, right? But James Cook legitimately puts heavy stress where you have to worry about him catching these little passes and housing it. You have to worry about him. Again, I really think this 2 tight end set could pay off for James
the route
Cook.
combos that you can work with a Dawson Knox down the seam with then like a James Cook running a Texas route like underneath that. Yes, it's huge. Like we used to see it with Darren Sproles and Jimmy Graham all the time.
His floor to me is like Naheem Hines, which goes in like 11th, 12th. Right. But if he hits ceiling, he's going to be in this range next year.
Yes, agree.
And again, like taking
and even if he is just the passing down back, that's a lot different being on Buffalo being the passing down back than being on Indy, right? You've got a run heavy team versus the potentially the most pass heavy team in the league. And so again, I think the Bills will run the ball a little bit more this year.
They want to. I know they want to be able to, and their guards did not fit the scheme they wanted to run in the past, where their scheme depends on athletic guards that can pull around and get the block on the edge. And Darrell Williams was like the converted tackle. He's good at guard, but he's like really slow. And now they finally they brought in Roger Saffold or something like that from the Titans, who's athletic.
Yep.
He's old, but he fits the scheme.
Yeah, he is older, but yeah.
And then they like the guy that the Bears tried to snipe from them is a stud at guard now.
What are your thoughts here on Rachaad White?
I like White but we have Lenny, so that's I think we should grab Garrett Wilson then.
Yeah, we can't go White.
We can with like that's a backfield.
I usually don't though. I mean, usually I won't take like the cuff. And now what I'll do it is if somebody lets it fall like 18 picks past ADP or something, then I'm like, okay, well, fine. Then not that many people are going to have the combo the way you got it anyway. So you're differentiating your lineup in a different way.
And more,
I love Garrett Wilson. Should not be.
Importantly, you're differentiating from smart people drafting. Like if I knew all the sharps were anti a strategy, I think I can implement sharp drafts using fish builds, if that makes sense. That's something.
You're just trying to create leverage in a different way, and then that way, if you're right, you win big.
Garrett Wilson,
I love the Garrett Wilson pick.
Pretty big tier break though. Once, like, there's some guys I like in this clique, but in these ranges, but there's also some guys that are going to be pretty low scoring pieces this year, I would bet. So I like our team so far. Double elite tight end, like our wide receiver crew for doing that. And then we have, a stud running back and a guy with a lot of potential. We got an elite quarterback. So we're going to be done at tight end. Going to add at least one more quarterback. I usually go 2 QB with Lance. Some people do 3. I'm not really doing that as much, but I
only do 2 usually with Lance. Like it's just put your chip down on him and go.
Yeah, exactly.
Like why would you take Lance if you weren't betting on the big up, the big?
Yeah, I mean early in the season when I just really did not know. Like in May, I have like 1 or 2, 3 QB teams, but he's also way cheaper then. Are you a Watson guy? I would go.
Well, Watson just hasn't been able to practice. Like he's been falling.
I like Darrell Henderson a lot.
Well, I love Darrell Henderson. Like he's definitely in the tier of guys that I would look at here. I like Henderson over Madison personally.
Let's do that then. I think that like Henderson with his season last year and the recent coach speak of, hey, they're co-ones to me, plus like, Cam Akers
more access to the AFC, NFC West as well.
Yeah, like so. I mean, Henderson probably should be going right in this range. And
yeah, he's been like around 12, 13, but he's got to move up. I'm surprised he hasn't honestly moved up more already. Like he's typically like at this time of year, people like they just jump on a news cycle. Like that's often a strategy I'll actually use, like just the news cycle, like the 48-hour news cycle. I'll just let whatever the news is go, and I won't take that player because everybody's reaching. And then but the opposite, like if there's something depressing a player's value, a lot of times that's over in like a blink of an eye. And I don't think a lot of people maximize it. They get caught up
buying
in
news
it. So,
dips is a big thing.
yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
we could talk about countless examples
And
there.
fading news spikes, because if the spike's going to be real, it's usually not going to be a skyrocket anyway. It's going to go up and it's either going to level or it's going to drop. Right.
Sometimes I think the news spike is like McKenzie is a guy who, he went from a undrafted to like a 15th. That's not a prohibitive cost to me to buy. And sometimes the markets don't react quick enough. Either people aren't plugged in. Let's talk about poker, man. I know you are a big poker guy. That's your profile picture on Twitter. I think you've interacted with some of my poker posts there. What's your background in cards and whatnot?
Yeah, so mostly just a hold'em, guy. Like, and I got into it like everybody else, just playing, in home games. And me, it's like my wife will say, like any kind of hobby like this, like I take like to another level. I don't just have it as a hobby. I've become obsessed with it. Honestly, I haven't sat at a table in over
we've been
a year.
streaming since May over here, so we're with you there.
Yeah, I haven't sat at a table in over a year. But like I took a sabbatical a few years back. I went out and played at the World Series. I played in several World Series events. I've cashed in a couple of them. Haven't made a big run, but yeah, I love playing. We've got a casino that's about an hour from here.
Where do you live?
I live in Texas, in Fort Worth. So
okay,
you got to go across the border to get to
poker's becoming big in Texas.
Yeah, we've got a lot more poker rooms here where you do the deal where you
what
buy
do you want to do for this pick real quick?
Yeah.
Jarvis, I'm cool with. I'm cool with KJ Osborne.
Click over on receiver real quick. Let me just see who else.
Michael Carter. DJ Chark.
No, I'm fine with any of those. Who's there at running back? I know we don't have enough time. Just take one.
Rojo.
Yeah, just go with the receiver.
All right, we went with Jarvis, which
I do like Rojo, but I know the Pacheco news is like so like with typically on a player like Rojo, I let it fall. Like, well, I guess we're already 10 spots past, so I give it if it comes back.
He's really falling. Yeah, like I think he might even fall into like but like he's gonna play football this year, even if he's cut from the Chiefs.
Yeah,
I think. Jarvis is a guy that I've been taking a lot of, but I don't know for underdog. Like he's got to score touchdowns, and he's
that's why I was kind of hesitant. I was like, I'm fine with it, but I don't get excited. I mean, it's fine to have some exposure to him, but
yeah.
Well, and we don't have any Eagles, do we?
Basically, what it lets us do if we want is we can basically stop at 7 wide receivers and get a weird build, but we don't even need to do that because we don't need more than another quarterback. So we can still take Rojo.
Yeah, I like the Rojo pick at this point.
Yeah, me too. I also like Khalil Herbert. I was taking a lot of Tyrion Davis-Price. He got a little bit of news blurb today, but let's take Rojo, man.
Well, and TDP like possibly comes back. I still like TDP.
Yeah, it was just, like, again, the news cycle drafters, like there was nothing positive for TDP. And like, of course, a guy that's not a speed back is not going to excel in the early camp practices. That's not like they're not trying to like implement their 1 yardage packages where like TDP would shine. And to the news report today,
like that's the thing I always want to know when I see the beat writer things. I'm like, so like what drill were we talking about here?
Yeah,
like, where so and so was the first, we're getting first string reps. Like okay, were we running goal line? Were we running short yardage and distance? Are we running the 2-minute offense? Like add like those little pieces of information to the end. And even then, it's just freaking practice, and we're in like the second week. So like we're collecting information. Some things more important than others, and we're keeping a pulse on it, right? But it's amazing like how much reaction we get over. Honestly, these first couple of weeks are when you get some of the best overreactions from people.
Oh yeah. The TDP news blurb today was that he's like a physical dog and was like doing very well against Fred Warner in blitz pickup.
There's a real chance, I think, that TDP I think the 49ers wanted Trey Sermon to be their early down back last year. So I was on the pod with Evan Silva, and he was really the first one on this, that he jumped on the TDP thing. And honestly, I had TDP ranked like
I had a huge bag of TDP before the Evan Silva pod.
yeah. The Evan definitely he got the Silva bump for sure. Like I had him in a nice tier before that, but I bumped him up one tier into a different tier of some of these younger guys that could take on a role. But I do think there's a good chance. I think they wanted Sermon to do that last year. Elijah Mitchell was banged up.
Are you buying the recent Sermon and Wilson are the twos, or is that? I mean, like,
Man, you
I don't
cannot
even know
buy
what beat
anything
reporters
from
to trust, man.
49ers camp.
Yeah.
We're honestly, we're in the dark. All I'm going to follow is, you know what? I know
What
TDP
about
was the
what
most
do you think of
recent
Josh
addition.
Jacobs playing those snaps? I didn't think that's that big a deal.
Well, not when everybody else played snaps too. That's the thing. Like, it would have been a huge deal to me if Josh Jacobs played snaps, but Zamir White didn't play in the game. It was dressed and didn't play. Like that.
Zamir White looked good though.
He did look
out
good.
there.
He did look good. And like Amir Abdullah could possibly be the passing down back. Maybe it's not Kenyon Drake. Like I had been drafting Drake with like my last pick just because I'm like, well, he's kind of the jack of all trades. He ends up being like the Rex Burkhead or the James White, kind of role in the offense if one of the other guys goes down. But yeah, maybe it's Abdullah. I don't know.
So
we're definitely getting a Patriots type backfield though.
Yeah.
I don't think you're gonna really like any.
Yeah, I think Brandon Bolden could even mix in.
Yes. Well, that's the thing. Even if there's an injury, right?
Real quick,
I love Jamal. I like Jamal Williams. I know you're a little more off on him because you were worried about Justin Jackson.
Well, I've just always really liked Justin Jackson is the thing. And like, was he not like 85% Eckler when he misses snaps? And I mean, I like Jamal Williams because he's a good guy. And I was drafting him before the Jackson news. After Paris Campbell and like Wandale and Davis, wide receiver kind of dries up. So I wouldn't hate going one of those guys. I also like Brian Robinson quite a bit, but I'm cool with Jamal.
Yeah, for me with Williams, where I think Justin Jackson potentially plays a role is if Swift is hurt, right? Playing more what you're talking about, the Eckler role. So I think what Justin Jackson does, I think it definitely caps potentially. Listen to that. Potentially, definitely in the same sentence. It probably caps his upside.
Yeah, like what is Jamal's role if it's not catching passes?
I still think Jamal would carry more of the load. I think I like Justin Jackson.
We don't want that. We don't want the guy grinding out the 2-yard Dan Campbell run.
Well, it's not that. Jamal Williams has actually been an every down back multiple times.
Yeah, he can catch
Aaron Rodgers. That's all we need. We just need to know that he'll be out there in the 2-minute offense if something does happen to Eckler. I do think that part, is in question, but I still think it would probably be like 60% Jamal Williams if we get an injury.
Let's see what Mac Ben does here. So we were at pick number 172, and then our next pick number is 189. So, I'm about Corey Davis if you're cool there.
Corey Davis has the talent profile.
It's doubling up our Jets guys there, but potentially we get Zach Wilson to come back to us too this way.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Or do you want to do a running back instead? Or do you have conviction about either of these guys?
I don't have conviction about either. They're both guys I mix in, to be honest.
Yeah. Honestly, I like loading up on Jets passing attack pieces is not something
I'm with you.
Want to do, but hey man, someone's got to catch balls out there, and
he was actually doing well before the injury,
yes.
Last year. So I mean, I know there were some funny videos about him on social media, with the kids saying he had no ups like after week 2. That was pretty funny on Corey Davis. But yeah, he was actually doing pretty well before the injury.
Yeah, the MILF Hunter makes the next step. You never know. He bulked up at least, but the early reports have not been positive, and I feel like that's something that the fantasy community does a couple things every year. They feel like they can predict this like Josh Allen type leap from like they're like, oh, but maybe this year this team that was really bad will not be bad anymore. And then the other thing they do is every year they think they can find the late round gem tight ends. And I will say I like a lot of these guys late, but we almost never find
it very rarely pans out. Now, to your point earlier, like if you could take multiple though, right? And that's potentially how you get there. But yeah, I still prefer to have one of the better tight ends and then mix in another. But that's me. I think honestly, my strategy this year is I'm typically, and I've rarely done this in the past, but it's just the way the tier breaks set up and just the player pool and ADP obviously has a big impact as well. But I typically by round 8 almost always have my quarterback and my tight end. Even not just best ball. Like I'm talking redraft where I don't
Yeah,
have
I've
to
been
have
doing
2
that a lot too.
quarterbacks. Yeah.
Do
So,
you play on the FFPC?
oh yeah.
Is
Yeah,
that's where you're playing your
FFPC
main
is
events?
yeah, I'll play my mains there.
So naked Zach Wilson goes, or I guess he got him with Brees Hall. I didn't think we would get him after I mentioned him on stream, but so we'll figure out quarterback. Tannehill's a guy I like late. Honestly, if
Who's
someone
available at quarterback that we can pair up with who we have?
yeah, we're not gonna really find too much stacks. Like we got Goff to
Are they all
Jamal.
gone? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, with you working the queue, it's like
We got
hard to keep up. So I'm just reacting in the last second.
sorry. I think it's coming together nicely though. Like when we take a Cooper Cup, those are your teams I kind of like to stress my wide receiver position where we're just I like to bet that Cooper Cup's going to be in the lineup every single week. So now I just need 2 to 3 other wide receivers, and I like our chances of doing that with this group. And yeah, we got exposure to like good teams, good offenses, and good players. Okay. Are you Will Fuller guy? Are you a Mostert guy?
I mean, I've been taking Fuller. Yes, I do like Fuller. I like Jared Goff here. I mean, we do have Jamal Williams at least. I know those. I know quarterback and running
Well,
back
let's
aren't
look at
typically
these guys on the
correlated, but
turn. So
yeah, do they have 2 quarterbacks or not? One has 2.
all of them should be done at quarterback. So I think we should push QB. So who
I
do you
agree.
want? Do you want Fuller or
I would
Mostert?
take Fuller.
All right. And I'm a big Fuller bag man. He could I don't know, be down bad and just not want to play, but where does he sign, Dwayne, if he signs?
Well, I mean, the latest buzz is obviously the Cowboys.
Yep.
You know, there was buzz around the Browns as well. But I mean, I think, we just got to wait and see who else gets hurt. I think he's obviously
Yeah.
biding his time, but the suitors are just going to continue to mount. There's not a ton of really good options out there. If I'm a team, I don't care what his baggage is really. I would much rather have Will Fuller than T.Y. Hilton, at his age.
Yes. No question. Like fucking the Packers tried out John Brown. What are they doing?
Yeah, there's obviously a narrative going on with Will Fuller right now in the coaching circle. This stuff all gets around. So there's more to the story with Fuller. We don't know it all.
Yeah.
Maybe he just quit on the Dolphins, but it won't matter in the end. Like there'll be enough injuries that he'll get to play, and he'll get to pick which team he wants to play for.
Yeah, that's the only real question is, does he actually want to play football or just
Yes, that is true.
All right, so we're gonna get plenty of the players we like on the comeback here. And we will go correlation on Goff is the plan, but if this guy wants to tank his team, all the power to you, brother. And that leaves us flexible with our last pick to do really whatever we want. Looking at our team, though, we have a 2-5-8-2. Where would you like to throw the last dart?
Pull your Q back up. I mean, we're not going to use it at tight end. I don't want to use it it's either a wide receiver or a running back.
Yeah, so let's look at the wide receivers and the running backs and what you feel. I feel like running back is a smarter position to do it with for our team, mostly because we can just take a handcuff to literally anyone, and if the starter goes down, it's a win the league type.
I agree. Like we know we get value out of Cook. Henderson with the latest news maybe has a role. I mean, people are so out on Ronald Jones. Funny, like Ronald Jones. Watch week 1, he's going to be their early down back. We'll forget about Pacheco. But
are you going to take
pull
any
the
Pacheco? I took like one share. I think I took 2.
I've taken him in the very end. I've taken him in the very end. Well, where did he go in this one? He's probably already gone. Like people have been nuts.
No, he just went. He just went.
Yeah, there he goes. Okay.
I like McKinnon a lot too, but now I'm not so sure. Like I don't know if you saw
the thing on Pacheco is that they're talking about him really using him in both things, on the ground and passing. Now, like if that happened, wow. Like that's why I would want to go ahead and have some exposure to Pacheco. I'm just careful with it because these are also guys. There's a lot of guys that get taken in these very last rounds that they just get cut from their team. So
yeah.
We're talking about a lot of undrafted free agents. We're talking about 6th and 7th round rookies that often don't make teams. So it's a bit of a gamble.
I have a player in mind I'd like to slap on.
I was going to ask you, who's your favorite bring back here? Come on.
Well, we gotta, we can't be amateur streamers. We got people listening. How about who are some of your favorite late round guys? Give us one at each position if you want.
Well, go over to the queue, just because, or I can just pull my tiers up in front of me. Hang on.
Just off memory, just who do you think you have a high exposure to at wide receiver in the late rounds, running back?
Well, I'm just trying to remember who's going really late here, in round 18. I like Dearness Johnson late.
Yep.
There's still a chance that if for some reason Deshaun Watson doesn't play, you could see the Browns trade Kareem Hunt, and not because they need to, not because it would make their team better, but just because they at least
the
get
Rams
something.
or the Saints makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, exactly. And so that would immediately promote Dearness Johnson, right? Kareem Hunt moves, or Dearness Johnson could get traded. So he's just a guy I like to buy talent late, and Dearness Johnson pops in all the metrics that I care about. So he's definitely a late round one for me at running back. A guy I've worked in a couple times is Pierre Strong Jr., just because there's all the rumors around the Patriots really moving to.
I haven't clicked that button yet, but I know about him.
And so the narrative on it is, they want to run more wide zone. Well, Pierre Strong was the best wide zone runner in the nation last year, behind Breece Hall. He was the second best, and so he also is a guy that profiles as someone that can catch passes. So it's just, and he has the same draft capital as Ramondre Stevenson. So, and we know the Patriots like to use three backs. So I think there's
who doesn't fit the wide zone scheme between Stevenson and Damian.
Well, really, Stevenson and Damian Harris are both power runners. They both run behind. They like to run behind gap concepts, pulling concepts. So there's not a big sample size, to be honest, on them. Looking at them run wide or inside zone, really, the Patriots ran 70% of their plays last year were gap. So it's there's not a big amount of data out there on them.
So I want to take one of these four guys. Dearness off of talent. Haskins and Hilliard is because Derrick Henry's backup is not getting drafted in almost any draft. Eno is maybe the backup there. You want to do Dearness though?
Those are all guys that I click.
Yeah. The Haskins and Hilliard thing is the market is just saying, hey, we don't know who it is if Henry goes down.
Mm-hmm. So
at the same time, a lot of people don't like Henry. So, and I think maybe also they're spooked because last year we were confident it was Darrington Evans, and then it wasn't. It was Foreman and Hilliard. But I'm not taking Derrick Henry, so I got to be mixing in these Haskins, these Hilliards. I don't want to be out on a team that wants to run the ball.
I was forced into my first Henry share last night. I was in a super flex, the Draft Sharks Invitational. So I had pick 12. It's
I was
obviously
going to be in that, but I didn't respond in time.
Yeah, this one had Leone and a bunch of really good drafters. I had the 12 spot, and so I just went Hurts and Lance. It's super flex. I went with that right out of the gate, and then they let Derrick Henry fall all the way back to me at the end of the third. That only happens in an industry league, and I was like, okay, well, there's my.
I would scoop that too.
Probably. Oh yeah, so I started with Lance, Hurts, Henry, and then I pounded receivers for 6 rounds, and then I came back to the backs.
So let's talk about our team before we get out of here. And there's a couple people in the chat that want you to rate their team. I think this is a solid squad. 2-6-8-2. I build a lot of teams like this when I go elite tight end. 8 wide receivers who, if they're all playing football, I'm confident are going to be scoring points in bunches potentially. Fun running back crew. An elite quarterback and an offense that could be much better. Double elite tight end. So fun group, fun team, I think. Not a ton of week 17 correlation, but there is some. And I don't always I don't need that every single time.
You don't. Yeah. You got the Denver, Kansas City.
Yep. We got a little bit of that.
Cincinnati.
Just as important as week 17 correlation is Thursday night opening day correlation. You got to get off to a fast start. Got to get off to a fast start in your leagues.
And I care less about the correlation on the backs, honestly, just because typically if the back goes off, everything on the other side is usually not as good. Not that it can't happen.
Rashad Penny and Amon-Ra, man. That's what it was for me.
Yeah, it was.
All right. Starkindler. I know Starkindler because he had 3 teams in BBM2 finals last year. I remember looking at the finals group, and there were several people with 3 teams, but he wants us to rate their team. I would never be going Tua with Rodgers and Lamar, but that's just me. I think this is a unnecessary pick. You have CMC though, so maybe that's why you didn't want to throw a 6th running back. I'm not in on all of these guys. Like, I don't know, maybe it's CH. Rondre's fun. Like I would have dropped Tua and threw in another running back. Strong group of wide receiver. Kyle Phillips, like, how much do the Titans run the slot? Like, I've been hearing buzz about him way back in March, so I'm aware
Yeah,
of him.
they
But
don't.
like, do they even like run slot? The thing about him is like
They do, but they run heavy personnel most of the time. So for Kyle Phillips to hit, he's got to win like the 0, which means you got to knock Robert Woods off the field. It's not happening. Like
yeah,
unless
it's
there's an
just
injury.
it's a thin, like, even with the buzz, it's thin to me. And then Tunyon is like, look, is he even going to play? I think he's a fine dart as the tight end too, but I would have definitely not taken Tua, and I would have added either a 3rd tight end or a 6th running back. Do you feel similar, or how do you feel about this
No,
allocation?
yeah, I think that's fair. I was just look at the backs again real quick. Yeah, I mean, I like all the backs, but I am with you. Like, I would want one more, in this build. And the biggest thing is like just what you mentioned. Like, if I get the 2 quarterbacks, like what you're talking about, I just don't ever add a 3rd. Rarely do I get Lamar and get
It's
to add
not what's
Aaron
going to
Jones.
advance you in the playoff rounds to the final, right? Like, Tua, let's say everything goes well and Tua scores 30 points and Rodgers and Lamar score 20. Okay, so you gain 10 points to your team right there. But if you hit on a running back or a tight end in these rounds that put up like the same points of separation but at a skill position, that actually can help you separate out of your playoff rounds. This is not true. I think a lot of people are misconstruing that data. Like, from what I looked into the league winners from last year, and the highest scoring teams, they were mostly 2 quarterback. And the reason is that the opportunity cost of selecting a quarterback in a high round, like, as far as scoring the most points, I would never do 2 quarterback, because you're just saying, like, I wouldn't go Hurts and Russell Wilson on the same team, because what you're saying is you're going to be no league winners at any of the skill position players in the 7th round, which is a thin thing to me. So I do max 1 elite quarterback, and I really try to push my QB2 to score the most points. And again, any research that is citing historical things that worked, it needs to apply what the current draft landscape is. If it's not doing that, it's not that relevant, right? And the NFL is so chaotic that if we ran the same season 5 times last year, wildly different things would happen, right? Like, so I don't know. I think 3 QB is fine, but I'd like to do it with 3 middle to late guys, not with 2 elite dudes on my team. But Dwayne, this was really fun, man. Don't want to take too much more of your time. Can you tell the people what you got coming down the pipeline in the content streets and where they can find your work?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I talked earlier about kind of my process a little bit. So, I've updated all my tiers and ranks. They've all been submitted. They're all posted to the site today. And if you go in, like, you'll actually, I share all the data with you. So, if you think that I've got somebody tiered wrong, great, that's up to you. But it's all based on their talent plus, their opportunity and their situation, right? And so it's taking all those things together. So those are all updated. Also have dropped strategy articles on every single position, how to really attack drafts this year based on what you just said. It's different every year. Like, what's the landscape? What's ADP giving us? What's ADP maybe not giving us? A lot of reverse engineering drafts, looking at where do we think, we potentially get the most value late? Where are the big pockets of value? So you're not trying to hone in on one player to make your build right. You've got groups of players that you could go after. And then that also helps you think about how you should start your draft. Because let's be honest, there's a lot of good players in the first couple of rounds. And so there's a lot of flexibility in the way that you can start your builds. Got my top 10, favorite smashes after round 7 is up. My top 10 players to fade in the first 6 rounds. Again, all based on the same kind of stuff. So yeah, all over at pff.com. And then of course, podcasting pretty much like every other day with Ian Hartitz.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I am going to Hollywood, Florida to play in their main event today or tomorrow. I'm going to be driving today, going to play that tomorrow. So hopefully we return and we've sun ran that contest. I think it's like a 5,300 main event. I should be saving that money to gamble on fantasy football, but the plan is going to be to play best ball drafts, play tight. Hope people think that I'm actually really in the lab and lean on that image instead, and then just play like a degenerate. So guys, have a great day. Like button, subscribe button, smash those buttons. Peace.